Hello and welcome back to the channel. I hope that you're doing well. I'm Dana, and in this video I'm going to be doing a sketchbook session. It'll be a full spread and I'm going to be talking about some of the art supplies I'm using, what I'm sketching, and also just updating you on things I've been up to recently. The sketch that you're currently seeing me draw, I started while we were out running some errands. We were in a waiting room for a bit, so I cracked open my sketchbook and started this portrait study. It's using reference from Earth's World. I've mentioned Earth's World in the past on the channel, and Earth is a photographer who takes portraits of Americans at county fairs and allows artists to, I think it's under a Creative Commons license. The license that she allows is all on her website, so the artists can study and sketch using her pictures, and then you can even share them under her hashtag on social media as well if you want to. I use them to study and improve at head drawing alongside other reference, and then also drawing from imagination and anatomy studies and all of that stuff in order to improve. And this is the only portrait study I did in this spread. I'm using a clutch pencil. It's a 2B 2mm clutch pencil. The body of the pencil is by Kohinoor and the lead is by Faber-Castell. I use lots of different materials for this spread, so I'll try and remember each time I switch up the material to mention what I'm using. Some of them will be obvious, like I finish off some of the sketches with posca markers in the background, but some of them might be less obvious, so I'll let you know what I use as they come up if I remember. As for what we've been up to recently, it has been quite busy the last few weeks and a lot of errands and things to do, but we went to a Digimon tournament, and I've mentioned that I've been getting into Digimon, the trading card game. I finished up a deck for that. I'm using a Rosemon burst mode deck, and then I've also got additional cards that can convert that deck into a Bloom Lordmon deck. And I went to a tournament. I didn't use that deck when I went to that tournament because I only just completed it, but I went to my first tournament at a card game store. It was a small event. There weren't too many people there. I'm hoping there's going to be more people there next week when we're going again. But it was a fun experience for sure. It was nerve-wracking at first, but I think it helped that there weren't that many people the first time I went. For that first tournament, I was using a Bloom Lordmon deck that I was borrowing. It's slightly different from the one that I'm currently using, but I think for next week I'm going to definitely take the Rosemon burst mode and see how that one does. It's fun. It's not been too difficult to get into, and I tried to get into Magic in the past, and I'm interested in getting into it again, but it's very intimidating, Magic the Gathering. And this has been a lot less intimidating and easier to get into and learn. As you just saw, I'm now bringing out the Posca markers. I ended up getting a few Posca markers because a friend who is really into board games is wanting to make a print and play board game, or it's an existing print and play board game that he is printing and playing, but he, instead of printing and playing it, he is making a whole wooden set for it. He's making a wooden board and then wooden tile pieces, and he's asked me to do the illustrations on the tile pieces. And to do that, I'm going to be using acrylic paints mixed with Posca markers for the fine details, and then varnishing them. If you're interested in seeing that process, I have been recording it a little bit, and I can definitely do a video for that if that would be something you would like to watch. It'd be a little bit different from the other stuff I've been doing, but still art related and still drawing on tile pieces. the leftover markers because the stores we went to didn't sell open stock posca markers, so we could only get a set. So the rest of them I've been using for drawing. And I brought out the dark blue and the light blue for the background on this just to pop it out a little bit. I was kind of experimenting, seeing what I wanted to do, playing around, and it was a fun time. I love blocking in with acrylic marker like this. It's very relaxing and meditative. So I plopped in 2 blocks of colour and then just had fun relaxing as I filled them in. And I think I also have pink, green, and yellow. The white, black, and red I'm using for the tile pieces, so I don't really want to use them in my sketchbook until I know that I have filled in all of the tile pieces and that the markers haven't run out before I've finished with them. And yeah, that should be a fun little side art project doing those tile pieces. It's a little bit different. You may have seen that I switched to a different pencil at the end of this before I brought out the poscas, just to darken up a few lines and thicken up a few areas as well. And that was a 2B lead, but a 0.7mm pencil. And the lead is a lot softer than the other 2B I was using by Faber-Castell. And it easily darkens up areas and just adds a little bit of depth and thickness to the lines when I go in and finish up a sketch with it. I've also just been enjoying sketching with that 2B 0.7mm pencil in this sketchbook as well. The texture of the surface has been really, really nice for using that pencil. And I've been enjoying using this sketchbook so far. It's my first time filling an Epsilon. I've used other Stillman and Birn sketchbooks and I've played around with Epsilon paper before, just loose sheets. And actually having a sketchbook has enabled me to play around with my materials a lot more on this paper and see what I like and don't like. Posca works really, really nicely on this paper if you're just blocking in. I haven't tried to do any blending or anything like that with Posca yet, so I'm not sure how well the paper would handle that. But in terms of just flat lay, flat colours, it's worked really well for me. The colours look really, really vibrant as well on the paper, and it doesn't pill too terribly, which is really, really nice when using acrylic markers. As any of you who've used Poscas or any other acrylic markers will probably know, pilling can get in the way when you're using certain kinds of paper, a lot of kinds of paper. I'm now switching up to sketching in a colour pencil. So this is a Polychromos magenta pencil. I love sketching in the magenta pencil. It's a really, really dark magenta that comes out almost like a deep red. And I love sketching in it, or sketching with it. I think I do the full spread in this pencil and then just add a background effect with something else towards the end. Here I'm doing a study of some jewellery, and I'm doing it because I have an idea for an illustration coming up and I want to play around with the jewellery for that. So I'm looking at and studying a bunch of different jewellery so that I can figure out what works and what doesn't work and what kind of effect I want to go for when I'm designing the actual jewellery in that illustration. One nice thing about using the Polychromos to sketch with is that while it can't really be erased, and that is a nice thing about it when you're wanting to not worry about fiddling around with erasing while sketching. If you're using really, really, really light lines, you can lift most of it away So on the final sketch I did lift a few preliminary ideas of what I wanted to do, and you can still see the ghosts of them. They don't show up that well on the video, but in real life, when you're looking at the paper, you can still see a very, very faint lines where I lifted away the pigment using a kneaded eraser, but it's not super noticeable. And that's one nice thing about color pencils, is that you can lift away some of the initial sketch if you really, really need to change things, but otherwise it acts as a permanent, or mostly permanent, drawing medium. Your lines, especially if you press down really hard, are pretty much going to remain there for the most part, depending on the pencil you're using. Of course, this isn't true of like erasable color pencil lead, but in this case, this is a non-erasable. And I do really, really love the feel of color pencil when sketching like this. It's got a much different consistency than graphite pencil, and it's just nice to switch up what I'm sketching with sometimes. I am drawing a flower here that grows around the house. I've been spending a fair bit of time outside while I've been here, enjoying the sunshine and the weather, but also just experiencing the nature and all the different animals around here. And I keep seeing red-breasted hummingbirds around here a lot, and I was wondering why they were getting their nectar. And I was wandering around through the trees one day, and I saw a bunch of these yellow flowers. And I'm not super knowledgeable about the wildflowers in the area. I'm learning a little bit here and there, but the flowers I came across are called touch-me-nots, and when I was looking them up, it said that it's the primary food source of red-breasted hummingbirds. So I was like, well, that explains it then. So I'm currently drawing one of those flowers, and I'm thinking of maybe incorporating them into an illustration, maybe with the hummingbird at some point. It might be nice. I have a bunch of different ideas, like usual. It's just whichever one I end up feeling like pursuing. And I've been trying to take pictures or videos of the hummingbirds, but they fly so fast that it's very, very difficult to get a good picture of them. I might try and sit out by some of these flowers and see if I can be still enough to sneakily take some photos or videos. We'll see. We have also been getting a lot of deer coming into the lawn area underneath the trees as well, and there was a fawn at one point as well, a pretty old fawn. It wasn't too far off the size of its mother by that point, and apparently my boyfriend's dog Bella had a dear best friend at one point a few years back. She would go outside and bark, and then they'd go out and check that she was okay, and there'd be a deer in the like lawn area, and the deer would like run up to Bella and then run back a bit, and then Bella would run up to the deer and then run back a bit, and they'd just play like that for ages apparently. And Bella would get super excited whenever the deer came onto the lawn. And yeah, it feels weird to call that area like a garden, because there's like a bunch of woodland and stuff in the area as well, so I'm not quite sure what to call it. Would you call it a garden? Would it make more sense to use the American term a yard, I suppose? Speaking of wildlife, though, I've been really diving into the bear course by Aaron Blaze over at Creature Art Teacher. I'm getting a lot more comfortable with the basics of big cat and, to some extent, domestic cat anatomy, now to start really exploring the basics of other animal anatomies, and I've decided to really dive in on bears at the moment. So this one is a grizzly bear, and I do struggle with the eye placement quite a bit on this one. I'm not too comfortable with the anatomy yet on these. I've got a lot of studying and a lot of drawing to go before I get as comfortable with bears as I am with big cats. But I'm excited for that journey and seeing myself improve at them over time. Bears have a very interesting nose shape in comparison to other animals. It reminds me almost a little bit more like a dog. And there are some interesting differences between grizzly bear face shapes and black bear face shapes. I might do a video soon, a study session, where I'm studying bears, either all grizzly or all black bears or a mixture. I've been enjoying watching and studying from the grizzly bear live streams that are going at the moment, since we're getting into salmon season. All of the live streams that are set up on waterfalls like in Alaska are all live, and you can watch all of the bears waiting and for the fish and then catching the fish and just coexisting together. You'll see like 4 or 5 bears all in the same area coexisting for that brief moment in time. Here I'm just finishing off the spread with Tombow marker for a little background element to pop out the bear sketch. I played around with the shape of this one a little bit. It's something a bit different from how I'd normally pop out sketches. I'd sometimes do this with white marker in like toned sketchbooks, but I've not really done this much with coloured brush pens. So it's a little bit of a different way of finishing off the spread. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the recent subscribers, and I'll see you next time. Bye!